Hello everyone. Today I will explain you a topic about measuring the cost of living. In this chapter we will look how economics measure the overall cost of living by indicators, namely consumer price index, consumer price index or CPI. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look what's the meaning of CPI. Okay, the first time we look the outline for this chapter. The first one is what is the consumer price index or CPI, and then how is it calculated, and what is it used for when we use the CPI, and then what are the problem with CPI. Basically, consumer price index or CPI measure of the cost of living for a typical consumer. Yeah, the cost of living refers to the overall cost of goods and service that are bought by a typical consumer. So every goods and service purchased by consumer will be calculated in CPI. Yeah, and consumer price index, there is a track price change for a fixed basket for goods and service. And then economists can measure inflation rate by using consumer price index. Yeah. Inflation rate. As we know, the inflation rate is the percentage change in the price level from the previous period. And this CPI is used to monitor change in the cost of living over time. So when the CPI rise, it means the consumer or family has to spend more money to maintain the same standard of living. What does it mean? When CPI rise or goes up, the inflation rate also rise. That means we have to spend more money to maintain the same amount of goods and service that we bought before the consumer price index rise. We can conclude when the CPI rise, we have to spend more money because there is a inflation rate rise as well. Okay, and then this indicator report monthly by Bureau of Labor Statistics or BPS. Yeah. To give us more understanding about CPI, now we look how Badan Pusat Statistik compute the CPI. The first step is fix the basket. Determine which goods and services are most important to the typical consumer. If the typical consumer buys more hot dogs and hamburgers, it is the, for example, there is two kind of goods, hot dogs and hamburgers. And if the typical consumer buys more hot dogs than hamburger, then the price of hot dog is more important than the price of hamburger, and we should give a greater weight to hot dog than hamburger. Yeah. And second step is find the price. Find the price of all the goods in the basket at each point in time. Yeah, we give the price for all the goods that consumer buy. The third step is compute the basket cost. In this step, we use the price to compute the total cost of the basket. We have to notice that only the price change for in this calculation of CPI. Yeah. So we keep the basket of goods at the same or fixed. Yeah. Remember, only the price of goods change, not the amount of goods. Yeah, only the price change. The amount of goods is fixed. Yeah, fixed. And then we look the next step. We choose a base year and compute the CPI. The base year is the benchmark for the calculation of next year. Yeah. Based on the formula, CPI is the cost of basket in current year, and then divided by cost of basket in base year. Yeah, and then multiply with 100. After we got the value of CPI, we can compute the inflation rate. This is the final step. In this part, we use the value of CPI to compute inflation rate. So the formula inflation rate is CPI in year 2, and then minus CPI in year 1, and then divided by CPI in year 1, and multiply with 100. Yeah, this is the formula for inflation rate. This is the example for calculating CPI. As we can see, the consumer have a fixed basket of goods, and the composition of basket is 4 hot dogs and 2 hamburgers. And second step, consumer find the price of its good. So there is the every price of goods, and then the next step, we compute the total cost of basket for goods. Yeah, we multiply the price of good and the quantity of goods. Yeah, this is the formula. P multiply with the quantity, and the same for the hamburger. Yeah. And then we got the cost for every goods. And then the fourth step, we choose 1 year as base year. Because the first year is 2016. This is year become as a base year. 2016. And then as we see the table, the base year is ini $X, $X for each time or each year. And then we compute the CPI for each year. It is the value of CPI. After we got the value of CPI, we compute the inflation rate from previous year. Because 2016 become the base year, we don't compute inflation rate for base year. We cannot compute the inflation rate in 2016. So we just compute inflation rate for 2017 and 18. This is the value of inflation rate for each year. After we calculate the consumer price index to get inflation rate, now we look the problems in measuring the cost of living. Even the CPI can measure the cost of living, but it's not perfect indicator. In this index also has 3 problems. The first one is substitution bias. Price of goods don't change proportionately. Sometimes some price of goods rise faster than other price. And when the price of goods rise so high or so expensive, the consumer will tend to buy fewer goods. In other hand, they will buy more goods at lower price or cheaper price. That means consumer will substitute that goods have become relatively cheaper. But if the consumer has substitution goods, these goods cannot be calculated in CPI because the CPI is formulated by the amount of the basket for goods which is fixed. Basket of goods must be fixed. So the CPI overstates increase in the cost of living. And then the second problem is introduction of new goods. More variety of goods. It means the introduction of new goods can increase the variety of goods for consumer to choose. The variety of goods allows the variety of goods allows the consumer to find products that more closely meet their needs. Yeah. Usually, purchasing power of money also can increase. So the consumer need less more money than before. Therefore, this index cannot reflect change in the purchasing power of money due to the introduction of new goods, because the CPI is calculated based on fixed basket. And then the last problem is unmeasured quality change. If the quality of goods increase from one year to the next year, for example, more sophisticated computers are distributed in a market, it will encourage many consumers buy these computers, which means that consumer purchasing power will increase. Yeah. But unfortunately, Badan Pusat Statistik is difficult to record change in quality of goods because it's hard to measure the quality change. Yeah. The quality change cannot be calculated. Okay, thank you so much for your attention. I hope you understand for this material, and then keep reading the books. See you.